Hi everyone, Talia from Zart Art, and today we're going to be making Himmeli hanging ornaments. So Himmeli ornaments originated in Finland and they're made out of wire and straw. They're also predominantly made out of pyramid shapes, so it's really interesting different ways that you can go about combining these triangular shapes and forms to create different elements in your sculpture or your hanging piece. Traditionally they're just used as something aesthetically pleasing that you would put in your house. So today what we're going to do is make our own Himmeli ornament. We've got some different sized straws here, so they're all different sized and we've got 6 of each. So we've got our shortest straws here, which we will call A, our medium sized straws, which we are going to call B, and our full length straws, which are C. These are cardboard straws as well, very easy to cut and to work with. And over here, we've got our very thin beading wire. So this is a very easy wire to maneuver and to twist. So we'll be using that as the base of our form, threading it through our straws. So what we're going to be doing is making a shape similar to this. So if you can see, there's a lot of different shaped triangles. So we've got our longer triangles here, shorter triangles on the bottom, as well as a hexagon shape. So what I've got is a little reference image, which you might want to do with your students as well. This will help them, particularly younger students, figure out where each piece is going and how many straws go in what area. So as you can see, we've got the bottom of our piece, which is just the hexagon shape. So there's 6 different sections of triangles, and we've also got our side pieces, which are our longer triangles, and we've also labeled which straws go where. So that will hopefully help you or your students figure out where exactly you're working from and how many pieces go in each area. So to start off with, I'm just going to cut a length of wire. So I'm not going to use the wire in too long of a piece because that makes it really easy to get it tangled and it's hard to work with. So instead of cutting a very long piece, I'm going to work in smaller pieces. And what that will mean is if I do run out of wire as I'm threading it through, I can just twist on another piece of wire to extend it and keep going. So especially with younger kids, they might find it hard to handle a really long piece of wire, so this will make it a bit easier for them. So my starting off point is going to be making 6 of these longer triangles. So what we're going to do is start with 2 longer straws, which you can see in the image. We'll go there. And then we've got our A straw, which is here. So that will make a bit more of a sharper angle. So we've got our 2C straws and our A straw down here. Now you don't have to work with exactly these lengths. You can work with whatever length you like depending on how big you want your piece to be, but we've just cut it down into these shapes because it's easier with the straw. If you can see, these 2 pieces make a full length straw. Instead of cutting down too many big straws and having excess to throw away, you can do that so you have 1 straw making 2 smaller pieces. So now we'll thread these through our wire, and I'm going to be making 6 of these triangles joined together. Don't worry about tying them at this stage, as we'll tie it all off at the end, and then we can extend our wire as well. So as you can see, we've got our 3 straws threaded together, and to make the triangle, you just pull the ends together. So there's our first triangle, and then you can just twist the wire. If you find it a bit difficult for your kids to work with or they don't have fine motor skills, you can use pliers as well to help you along, but hands should be enough for wire that's this thin. So our first triangle, as you can see, we've run out of wire to keep threading, so I'm going to do is tie another length of wire to the end and keep going. So these will be the next 2 straws that we're adding on and threading through, and then we'll continue until we've used all of our C straws as well as our A straws. So now I'm just twisting the wire around a few times just to secure it. And as you can see, that's extended our wire quite a bit to continue working. Make sure as you're going, when you've got 2 points that are reaching each other, that you just tie the wire off around it. This will make sure that it will hold its shape. Now, if you're finding that you're at a point where you can't restart your straws in that exact area, what you can do is thread your wire back through the straw until you've reached the point where you can continue going. So threading the wire through the straw can be a little bit fiddly if you're going back through. That's just because the wire is quite thin, easy to bend, but if you just keep pushing it and wiggling it around a little bit, then you'll find a spot where it will eventually come through. So just keep being persistent and you'll find a way to get through. So here you can see we've got the top part of our piece, and you might just need to bend the wires back into the position after working with it for a little while. So there we've got the top, and now what we're going to do is just use our B pieces, which are our middle length, just to attach to those joints and then join them in the middle. So what you'll notice with the wire is because we already have a straw here, but the wire's ended here. So what we're going to have to do is thread it back through. So loop it back through to the top and then do the next section. So on the drawing, we've done these 2 pieces. Our wire's ended here. We're threading the wire back through to the middle to do our next piece. So each section will be the same process from here on out. So when you're finished attaching the last piece, just make sure you do a few loops just to ensure that that's nice and secured. It's not going to come off or go anywhere. So once you think it's nice and tight, you can just snip off the end. And there we have our shape. So what you can also do is just attach a string or more wire to the top to hang that from. So I'm just going to cut another length of wire and attach that to the top. So any length that suits you. So just make sure that we get that right in the middle and twist that around. So because this is such a thin gauge wire, you just want to check all of your little joints. So as you can see, this bottom part, which I finished off on, is just a little bit loose because that's not attached. So I'm just going to grab another piece of wire and secure those together, and that will make sure that it's not so flexible. Now we're back to the top part, which we've just extended our wire. And what I'm going to do is thread through some of these wooden beads. So you can use any beads you like. You could even color them, paint them. This is just to give it a little bit more embellishment to make it look a little bit more interesting too. Okay, now we're just going to make a loop through the top so that you're able to hang it, and twist that wire around a few times just to make sure it doesn't come loose. So there we have our beads and our hanging ornament. But what you can also do, if you did want to extend the activity, what you can do is add some cotton onto our piece. Now this isn't what is traditionally used, but if you did want to extend it, add some embellishment, then this is a really nice way to finish off the piece. So for an example, we've got a different shape here, but as you can see, we've added some cotton layers here where you can still see through the shape. So you can still see the whole 3D form, but little sections are just tapered off so you get the interest of the color of the cotton as well as the pattern. So there's a few ways you can go about it. You can go in a bit of a random formation like that one, or you could cover the bottom of your piece if you did want to hang it and place something inside that's quite light. But what we're going to do is something very similar to that example and just do patches here and there, which will create a real interest in the work. So we've got a few pieces of light cotton shirting, which already have some different patterns printed on the top. It's a really good way to recycle old clothes, cloths, or things that you don't have much use for anymore. Now what we'll also be using to adhere this to our piece is just some PVA and water mixed together. So this is just standard PVA glue and a little bit of water in a jar. So it's about a 50-50 mix. Got some pouring a bit easier without the nozzle. So you want about a 50-50 mix, but you don't have to be completely exact with it. Just make sure you stir that together. So the reason why we're using a 50-50 mix is because the cotton will absorb the water much better than it will with just 100% PVA. And also it's a bit of a waste of PVA to do it without mixing it with a little bit of water. So then we can extend the amount of glue that we'll be using if we mix it with water. So that looks nice and mixed. So you might want to pre-plan what sections you're going to cover, or just see how it looks as you go. So these pieces of cotton will be too large, so just do a slight measure up. You don't have to cut it exactly right. So just a rough patch will do, and you don't have to cut it in a triangular shape either. You can work around it once you've got the cotton half stuck on. You can fold it and then arrange it to the right shape. So what I'm going to do to start off with is just place some glue onto the section of the straw that we're covering. And you don't have to be too gentle with the glue. Use as much as you need. And then with our piece of cotton, as you can see, we need it to overlap, and then we'll adhere the extra overflowing part to the bottom. Now a really good trick is to just give it a bit of a snip in those parts that you need to fold over, and then that will hide any messy edges. And then we can just get rid of the excess. So we're not wasting too much cotton here at all. So once you've adhered it to that side, you can flip it over and then add more glue to the bottom. So you do want to apply the glue directly to the fabric, and that will make sure it stays nice and stuck. Okay, so that's the first piece, and that will dry quite nice and firm. So what we're going to do is repeat that for the next few sections. So I've got a few pieces added on here. You could keep going, you could cover the whole thing or just a few more sections, but I'm quite happy with how that's looking, and I think I'll leave it there. But as you can see, it's quite an interesting piece, and there's a whole variety of different shapes that you could explore as well. So this is a bit of a different way that you could explore construction with your students. It's a great way of looking at line and pattern, and there's lots of different variations that you can do with this as well. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.